I'm going to invite join in singing.
Cool.
Yeah, I know, they suddenly came in. Come sing a song with me. Come sing a song with me. Come sing a song with me, that I might know you're mine. And I'll bring you hope when hope is hard to find. And I'll bring a song of love and a rose in the winter time. Come dream a dream with me. Come dream a dream with me. Come dream a dream with me, that I might know you're mine. And I'll bring us hope when hope is hard to find. And I'll bring a song of love and a rose in the winter time. Come walk in rain with me. Come walk in rain with me. Come walk in rain with me, that I might know you're mine. And I'll bring you hope when hope is hard to find. And I'll bring a song of love and a rose in the winter time. Come share a rose with me. Come share a rose with me. Come share a rose with me, that I might know you're mine. And I'll bring you hope when hope is hard to find. And I'll bring a song of love and a rose in the winter time. Come sing a song with me. Come sing a song with me. Come sing a song with me, that I might know you're mine. And I'll bring you hope when hope is hard to find. And I'll bring a song of love and a rose in the winter time. Okay, you may be seated. Good morning. So glad to have you here with us this morning, whether you are here in the Commons or whether you are with us on Zoom. And I would guess there are a large number of people on Zoom today, and we're happy about that. So there are several things in the service where, as a Zoom participant, you can join in via the chat. So make sure you have that tool up on your computer or your tablet, whatever you're watching through. This summer, we are looking more carefully and in more diverse ways about how we live out our values in our daily life. I want you to know that we lived out our values in our White Elephant sale this past weekend in reaching an all-time high of over $3,000 for the sales on that one day. Yeah. And I know that there are a great many people who worked very hard to make that possible, both bringing the things as well as working that day, and we are so grateful for everyone who participated in that way. So in terms of what we're doing for the summer, it is my delight to introduce to you Rachel Bair, our presenter this morning, for her presentation titled Mindfully Opting Out. She and her husband, Dan, and her daughter, Mara, have been part of Peoples for around 9 years or so. And as we were preparing for this service, I was inspired and uplifted by the thoughts that she shared with me, and I'm eager for you to hear her today as well. She's talented in many wonderful ways. She is the Director for Sustainable Food Systems at KVCC. And she also will be singing our special music for the offertory this morning, so we're doubly blessed by her in many ways. When we light the flame of the chalice, we are connected to other people in ways that also remind us that we are part of a liberal religious community who have and will gather. We have the rhythms and the concerns, of course, of our daily life and the concerns of our people's congregation. But really, they come to be held in a much larger and more meaningful context. So with gratitude for this community and consciousness to live our life more mindfully, we light this challenge. If you are watching on Zoom, we invite you to light a chalice and enter in the chat that it is lit and what neighborhood, village, or town you are from. Also, because we are part of a community that cares for one another, we take time every Sunday to share our joys and our sorrows with one another. If you have something you would like to share, please step forward and speak into the mic, which I will have in a moment and offer you. We would appreciate hearing your name and have you speak briefly, and then put a stone into the water as a symbol of the blessing that comes to us all. As we share our joys, we are expanded, and as we share our sorrows, we are comforted. So if you wish to participate in that this morning, please do so. And again, if you're on Zoom, please enter that in the chat and we will read that.
I just want to say I haven't played this instrument in public in about 9 years, and I haven't practiced in about that length of time either. So I offer you these wrong chords and buzzing strings with love and gratitude. Don't worry, mother, it'll be all right. And don't worry, sister, say your prayers and sleep tight. And it'll be fine, daughter of mine. It'll be just fine. Lend your voices only to sounds of freedom. No longer lend your strength to that which you wish to be free from. Fill your lives with love and bravery, and you shall lead a life uncommon. I've heard your anguish, I've heard your hearts cry out. We are tired, we are weary, but we aren't worn out. Set down your chains till only faith remains. Set down your chains and lend your voices only the sounds of freedom. No longer lend your strength to that which you wish to be free from. Fill your lives with love and bravery, and you shall lead a life uncommon. There are plenty of people who pray for peace, but if praying were enough, it would have come to be. So let your words enslave no one, and the heavens will hush themselves to hear our voices ring out clear with sounds of freedom, sounds of freedom. Come on, you unbelievers, move out of the way. There is a new army coming, and we are armed with faith. To live, we must give. To live, and lend our voices only the sounds of freedom. No longer lend our strength to that which we wish to be free from. Fill our lives with love and bravery, and we shall lead a life uncommon.
Thank you, Rachel. Clearly you lead a life uncommon, and being willing to do that, and as well as your part in the service today, is really appreciated. Will you join me now as we share together in our thanksgiving for the abundance that we have? From the countless gifts we have each been given, gifts of life and love and sustenance, we bring these small portions to share in the works of love, which none of us can accomplish alone. The reading that Rachel has chosen for today is titled A Vision by Wendell Berry. If we will have the wisdom to survive, to stand like slow-growing trees on a ruined place, renewing and enriching it, we will make our seasons welcome here, asking not too much of earth or heaven. Then a long time after we are dead, the lives our lives prepare will live here, their houses strongly placed upon the valley's sides, fields and gardens rich in the windows. The river will run clear as we will never know it, and over it, bird song like a canopy. On the levels of the hills will be green meadows, stock bells in noon shade. On the steeps where greed and ignorance cut down the old forest, an old forest will stand, its rich leaf fill drifting on its roots. The veins of forgotten springs will have opened. Families will be singing in the fields. In their voices, they will hear a music risen out of the ground. They will take nothing from the ground. They will not return, whatever the grief at parting. Memory, native to this valley, will spread over it like a grove, and memory will grow into legend, legend into song, and song into sacrament. The abundance of this place, the songs of its people and its birds, will be health and wisdom and indwelling light. This is no paradisal dream. Its hardship is its possibility.
Doesn't believe my face. Okay, it's really me. All right. Hi. Can you hear me okay? All right, that's better. I'll just speak more clearly. That song that I sang earlier was one of the first songs that I learned when I taught myself guitar for campfire purposes only in college. And I haven't played it regularly for probably 18 or 19 years, but the words of it are deeply embedded in my brain. It's a deep cut from Jewel's second album, so I don't expect anyone who isn't an elder millennial or young Gen X to recognize it. Yeah, there's my people. Or to have internalized it as deeply as I have. But when I started thinking about what I wanted to say today, that lyric popped into my head. No longer lend your strength to that which you wish to be free from. I find that so much of the work of living my values in this world has come down to noticing the things that I have been doing out of habit or socialization or because they're just what's done, realizing they don't align with my values or serve me, and choosing to stop doing them. Opting out, no longer lending those things my strength. So there are lots of things I have opted out of. The hair and skincare industry, clothes dryers, conventional gender roles around work, most meat. There are some things that I struggle with opting out of: diet and fitness culture, Costco, opportunity hoarding for my child, Taylor Swift, capitalism. Just kidding, I don't actually want to opt out of Taylor Swift, but capitalism maybe, you'll see. And so I'm talking today about one big way this practice of opting out shows up in my life and the cascades of shifts that the initial opt-out has created. So I'm going to talk about bicycles, obviously, and houses. And just so you're prepared, there is a lot of undercurrent in here about climate catastrophe, and I'm going to be talking very overtly about money. So some things to know about me that are important context for what I'm going to say. I am a cisgender white woman. I'm married to a man. We have one child. We are all neurotypical and able-bodied at this moment in time. I grew up here in Kalamazoo in a financially stable home. My parents had steady middle-income work. There was always enough money for what was needed, though it was a thrifty life, and I benefited from partial need-based financial aid to go to college. And I am aware that my view of the world is colored by an internalized sense of security and sufficiency that's afforded by these many layered privileges. So I know that some of the things I'm going to talk about related to lifestyle choices and about money are not accessible to everyone in our community or everyone in this room. But I try to use my privileges basically to be a weirdo in ways that matter. My privileges allow me to choose to opt out and not suffer consequences for them. So my and my family's biggest and most visible opt-out is riding bicycles for transportation. We are that bicycle weirdo family. And this started as a climate action. It felt like something we had control over, something we could do to make a difference. Not use the gas to drive the car, not have the embedded energy in the car itself. And so Dan and I made the choice about 11 years ago to be what we call car light. We have one car that we share between us. We were living in Ann Arbor at the time, and it's easier and more normal to get around without a car there. And we had a couple years there to practice before we moved to Kalamazoo, where it is not easy and it is not normal. We weren't sure we'd be able to stick with it, but we were able to choose a place to live that was accessible by walking, transit, or biking to my work. And so we're still doing it. We still only have one car 9 years later, though we are increasingly feeling, especially in the middle of heat waves like this past week, like this individual choice is futile. It is a drop in the bucket relative to the magnitude of climate crisis. We do it anyway, but there are a few ways that I've started to reframe this choice that are making it feel more powerful. So the first reframing is that while cycling for transportation and only having one car started out as a climate action, it actually turns out to be a deeply impactful financial choice. Soon after moving to Kalamazoo, we realized that as long as we only had one car to pay for, we could live comfortably on only my salary. And that has given Dan the freedom to work some very cool and worthwhile part-time jobs, to parent our child through the pandemic and beyond, to manage emergent family business, and to pursue important volunteer and advocacy work that has to get done to build our community in the way we want, but that no one is going to get paid for. In short, opting out of the expense of the second car prompted us to think carefully about what the money earned by a second salary would pay for. Things like childcare and conveniences that we would need in order to manage 2 full-time jobs, and to weigh those against the social impacts of that choice. It has allowed us to choose time over money. And we're so glad to have made the choice we have. And that leads me to the second powerful reframing, which is that some of the advocacy work we do, and it's mostly Dan who does it with that time we bought by only having one car, is with a group called Mode Shift Kalamazoo. That group is working to try to make it easier for others to make the same choice to opt out of cars. But let me pause and say, we drove here today, and so did, I'm gonna guess, most of you in the room, even Jennifer, who usually rides a bicycle, because that's just the system we have. We need to use a car to function reasonably in the built environment that we're in here. And to do otherwise takes a huge effort. So I want to be clear that I don't judge a single person here for driving a car. This is what we have to do. But I wish we didn't have to. I wish we had a world where people under 16, where people with vision or cognitive impairments, people with past convictions, people who simply can't afford the thousands of dollars it costs to own and operate a vehicle. AAA Michigan just increased their estimate. It's $12,000 a year, which is more than a quarter of the area median income for a single person household to own and operate a car. And people who don't want to contribute any more greenhouse gas emissions than absolutely necessary. I wish they could all have the same amount of independence and autonomy as a car driver here. It's a deeply pervasive equity issue, and one that I feel isn't talked about and is taken for granted. So when I ride my bicycle, I ride it out loud. I cycle in my work clothes. I ride a bike in this. And I work in clothes I can ride a bicycle in. I talk about transportation all the time. It's annoying, I'm aware. And Dan and I get together with other practical cyclists to advocate for changes to bring others into this movement. Because here's the reframe. The thing about opting out, no longer lending your strength to the thing, is only the first step. When you opt out loud with love and bravery to shift the system, you help build a new environment that others can opt into. So this car light choice of time over money has freed me to think about money and what we can do with it in different ways. And the desire to make this option more viable for more people has led us to band together with others. And so now the third reframe, which might feel like shifting gears a bit, and that is a bicycle metaphor, not a car metaphor. Advocating for practical active transit options has gotten me interested in urban planning in general and in housing in particular. Why is that? So for starters, cycling and other non-car transport become more possible and practical when housing is relatively dense and when it's organized around nodes and corridors, which is pretty much the opposite of how housing is organized in most cities and metro areas in the United States at this point. I'm also interested in housing because I am a human living in this community, and we all know we have a crisis-level housing shortage that needs to be addressed. And I serve on the board of the City of Kalamazoo's Brownfield Redevelopment Authority. And in that capacity, I'm learning about housing and other real estate development, and specifically about how long it takes and how difficult it is to build the financial stack, that's really the term, financial stack that will make the investment possible for the developer. So at this point in the economics of building housing, it nearly always requires a public subsidy of some form to ensure a developer will get an adequate return on an investment that they make, even to build what's called workforce housing that's intended to rent at rates that are accessible to a household earning 80 to 120% of the area median income. This is not low-income housing. This is just accessible housing. And even market rate housing often requires a subsidy just to get the project off the ground. Privately developed new housing, at least in the city of Kalamazoo, is exclusively producing rental units, apartments, because you can't sell a house or a condo in Kalamazoo for what it costs to build it. There's a significant gap between those two numbers. There are a few nonprofits doing really important work to build houses meant for owner occupation by lower income households. They are subsidized by philanthropy and the housing millage and other limited public sources. But what I have come to conclude about housing is that the financial tools we have been using, the financial tools that got us into the system we have, are not going to be able to get us out of this crisis. We are stuck in a capitalist system that is based on debt-induced financing that isn't meeting human needs. And that feels enormous. It feels almost as enormous as, well, it's not, because the climate catastrophe is the whole globe, but it feels almost as unsolvable to me as an individual person. And so I have a recurring daydream that I spend way too much time in, where I win the Mega Millions lottery and just build duplexes and row houses all over town and just like give them away. But I'm not rich. In fact, I've actually just discovered that my household of 3 is exactly at the area median income. And so I'm in no position myself to donate enough money that will make a difference to a housing nonprofit, or to become a developer myself. But what if we made this decision an action to opt out of this system together and out loud by thinking differently about money and what it's for? Because I do have some money. I have some tens of thousands of dollars that I am saving, like I was taught to do as a good middle-class worker and consumer for my retirement. This is a thing that is done. I can't give it away because I'm going to need it at some point, but I don't need it now, and I probably don't need it for 30 years. It's sitting in various mutual funds and 403Bs and money market accounts. And I wonder if this is true for some of you as well. And what if we all took a little bit of that money and we put it together? We'd have enough cash to buy a vacant lot from the land bank and build a triplex or a fourplex on it using one of the city's pre-approved plans that are meant to make building housing very easy. The finished house wouldn't be worth what we paid to build it, to sell it, but we could rent it for a few years at a workforce rate until the combination of the value of the building and the cash on hand from the rent payments equaled what we put in plus inflation. And then we sell it. Maybe to one of the tenants who's looking to start owning property themselves, or maybe to another local owner. And at that point, we could all have our money back and put it back where it was, or we could do it again. And maybe enough people want to join in that we could be building 2 or 3 multi-unit houses at a time, putting our money to work in and for our community instead of parking it in anonymous brokerage accounts and mutual funds, where depending on the investment strategies of those funds might actually be working against our values. We'd end up with a lower return on our investment, maybe, though here's the doom. The predictions about climate migration indicate that demand for housing and value of homes in the Great Lakes region is going to significantly increase in the coming decades, because we have the water. So maybe not. But regardless, in the conventional sense, this would be a bad financial decision. Let me be clear, it's a bad financial decision that even I, as the instigator of it, would not be willing to put more than a hefty minority of my money into it. And let me also say here, parentheses, there are so many elements of this idea that have not been thought through, like ownership and insurance and who would actually manage it. It's really just an idea, and I'm beginning to speak it into life in this room full of people who wish me well, so go poke holes right in it. It's ready for it. But back to the money, what is money for? For me, it is a tool that we can use to create a higher quality of life by having it and using it, or by not earning it and doing something else with the time we would have spent earning it. And I want to live in a community that is vibrant and dense and healthful and adequately houses all of our neighbors. So despite the lost interest or lowered return of money, if I used my money to build a house in my city rather than to prop up a multinational corporation through a mutual fund, it actually feels to me like money well invested. What I'm getting instead of that interest return is more valuable to me and more aligned from my perspective, with my UU values. I once saw a thing on Twitter, before Twitter died, where someone was saying that they wanted to live in a place that was bikeable for transportation, that they couldn't decide where to move to. So one day, they just started riding a bicycle in the town where they lived, and all of a sudden, they realized they lived in a place that was bikeable. And that's how I felt about Kalamazoo when we moved here, before all these great cycle tracks and bike lanes started popping up all over. You just have to opt out of the thing that the system, the culture, or the environment is encouraging you to do, and do the thing that feels right sometimes. And you have to find the people that will do that new thing with you, and together, through shared action, you build the new system. Together, with love and bravery, we can find the power to live our values and to lend our strength to that which gives us freedom. So I've given you some questions to think about. Only one of them is about money. So if that's not something you want to talk about at church on a Sunday morning, you can choose the other two. That's fine. But I'll leave it there. Thank you.
So now we invite you to self-select into some small groups. And I will tell you, the smaller the group, the more time you'll have to share with one another. The questions are in your order of service. If you don't have one, there are some available on the table back there. Maybe somebody in your group will have one. They're very thoughtful questions. And I've been thinking about this ever since Rachel and I talked originally in planning the service. So just please remember to be considerate of one another. We appreciate it if you will allow one person to start. Don't be afraid to start the conversation, but say your piece, and then allow time so that perhaps everyone who wants to speak will have an opportunity to do so before you move on to the next question or any discussion about what's been said. So with that, let us get into our groups, please. Thank you very much. We'll come back together for a closing song. Fascinating and fascinated, but I invite you to, just wherever you are, join us in our closing song. Trust that your sharing has been enlivening and uplifting and learning.
The same now. What's up?
We'll build a land where we hold up the broken. We'll build a land where the captives go free, where the oil of gladness dissolves all mourning. Oh, we'll build a promised land that can be. peace like a flowing stream.